Morning. Let's start with the Serenity Prayer this morning. Still seems to be something I really hold on to. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. So, waking up in Phoenix again this morning, and I don't know how this is all gonna come out. It's gonna probably be kind of a jumble because it's a lot of things, a lot of thoughts this morning. So many things that I just am trying to piece them all together and get them into some kind of cohesive something that you can understand, and I can get whatever messages out that need to go out. So I find myself down here, and I'm troubled, to say the least. Been down here a couple of days, kind of been wandering around, and what I realized is that I realized a lot of things, but this is tough. This is really tough, and I know I'm tough. I can do things that most people can't. I'm grateful to God for that. On the other side of that, I also know that I was a very sick man a few months ago and thought I was going to die. In no uncertain terms, I was waiting to die. I welcomed it. I'd had enough. And that was the only peace that I thought I was going to get, was just to give up. You know, I knew something was wrong in so many ways, but I didn't want to believe it, I guess. I don't know. I just don't know. But, so I was thinking about what I'm going to do today, and wandering around the city doesn't seem to make any sense for me. To get a Social Security card, you got to have an appointment. Then I got to figure out how to get to the Social Security office. Then I got to go down and make my appointment, keep the appointment, and then have them mail me a fucking card, right? Where are they gonna mail me a fucking card, right? So my options for finding work here are slim and none. You know, there's, I don't know, 10,000 people want to work off the books, and nobody wants to pay them that way. So who am I to think that that's gonna work out? I'm 60 years old. You know, I'm no longer going to be able to be your ditch digger. Can I still work? Probably outwork half the kids out there. But on the other side of that, am I well? No, I'm not well. I realized last 2 days, I'm still real sick. Sometimes I don't talk about it, but I got some stuff going on that isn't going to work out well. Do I think God's going to let me die now? Absolutely not. I believe 100% I'm here to save this country. I know that. I've known that for a while. That was probably the first realization that I had. I remember in an apartment in Dansville when COVID came, and I said, Dad's not here. I guess that leaves me to figure it out. And I didn't know what I was saying then. It was just coming out of my mouth. I didn't know where these thoughts were coming from then. But that was the beginning. That was powerful. I sit today and I think about these things. But yesterday, I'm trying to learn the city streets here, and I really have been having a hard time with it. You know, I tried to get a paper map at the airport. I thought there was maybe a truck here for me. Couldn't get a paper map at the airport. They told me get online and you can look it up. So, you know, and me and fucking Maps and Google, I'm like, forget it. We're gonna get into that too. Never a dull moment with me, I guess. But, so yesterday and the day before yesterday, I tried to get back to the shelter here. And I realized that the streets are running, I want to say north and south. Might have been east and west. Doesn't really matter. But, so, the streets are running one way, the avenues are running another. So, a thinking person would think, okay, if I follow the presidents, because they're all running east and west, if I just stay with the presidents, I'm going to, and they're in the order of the presidents. So it's kind of easy to figure out, right? Washington, Jefferson, Madison, you know, Adams, you know. But what I found is it's not that simple. I'm on the train yesterday, and I'm trying to look out the windows and see landmarks so that when I'm walking, I can identify where I'm at in the city. And I'm looking out the train windows, and there's no looking out the windows. They got screen on them so that it disrupts your view. And I thought, why in the fuck would they do that? Did they not want you to be able to get your way, know your way around the city? And I realized that nobody here knows their way around the city. Nobody. They all take the fucking SkyTrain or the rail, and they don't know their way around the city. And that's why, okay? Those windows are screened out for two reasons, I can tell you. One is they don't know, they don't want you to, once you're out of your immediate little area where your home is, they don't want you to be able to wander around and get through and make it easy for you. I realized on my way back to the shelter in Madison Avenue curls around, and then there's a series of businesses that are all fenced off, which led me into another back way, which took me to a Mexican swap meet or a flea market, which I got locked into. Couldn't get back to the shelter. Left me out here homeless. So I don't even have a shelter to go to. So I spent the last couple nights here, and nobody's kicked me out yet. But I know that's coming. Because the last 2 days I couldn't even have my lunch. You know, I'm at Burger King. Talk about the hate. I still can't even get over that guy. I went in and bought a sandwich, sat down and ate it. Came back out and sat under a shade tree. Some lady brings me a sandwich, she sees it and throws me out. Well, my introduction to Phoenix was I had a dead phone, so I'm running around trying to find a plug. So I went into Burger King, I had a couple bucks, I was gonna buy a sandwich, sit down and charge my phone. Well, I sat down and I plugged the phone in the wall, and it didn't work. And I went up to, and I tried another outlet, tried a third outlet, a fourth outlet. The whole fucking dining room has got the plugs turned off, so that you can't charge your phone. Now, you've got a community with fucking tons of homeless people, right? And the manager is more concerned with turning the outlets off so that nobody's able to charge their phones in there. What does that say? You know, Burger King, I want you to think about this. You guys who are running Burger King, what does that say? You know what I mean? Like, and I got to tell you that I was in North Carolina, in Sanford, and I sat in a Burger King for over a week, every day, and those people were hospitable to me, they were decent to me, and I complained about your coffee, because you can't get a cup of fucking coffee in Burger King, and it's the same shit down here. You can't get a cup of coffee. I don't give a fuck what time it is. You know, unless it's 6 a.m. in the morning, you're not getting a cup of coffee. If you go in there at noon and you want a cup, no, you're not getting it. We don't have it because we don't want to keep coffee on. We end up throwing it away. Okay, fine. Well, you know, the solution, Circle K's got that solution for you. Fresh coffee every time in a punch of a button. But I know that's an expensive fix. Maybe it doesn't work for Burger King. I'm not here to tell you it should or should. I'm just, you know, making statements that I know to be true. Okay, these outlets were turned off so that people couldn't charge their phones. Now, is every person a homeless person that comes in Burger King? No, of course not, right? In fact, most of them aren't, because homeless people don't usually have money like that to go into a restaurant. They're going to food pantries and to free churches where they have breakfast. You know, that's kind of the way of life, which is a fucking hard way of life. But then you're gonna turn off the fucking electricity to make their lives even harder. They get kicked out of a shelter at 5 o'clock in the fucking morning, and they're not allowed back until 7 at night. Not even to fill a fucking water bottle when it's 85 degrees out. Alright, so while you're shutting them fucking things off, think about what you're doing to these people who are already in a terrible way. They're in a terrible way. Is that your fault? No, it's not your fault. Is that your problem? No, it's not your problem, or at least not yet. Not till one of them is so desperate that they try to rob you or beat you over the fucking head with something to take $5 out of your pocket because they're that fucking desperate. And will all of them do that? Absolutely not. But will some of them do that? Absolutely. We all know that. So, you're not making it any safer on the streets. You're not making things any better for people that are already vulnerable by shutting that shit off. You are not helping nothing. You're not doing any stewardship towards the planet or fixing the problems that we have. And, you know, so if you're part of that organization, get your shit together. Talk to your fucking managers. You know, we need to do shit for these people, not make life harder. You make life harder for them, you're making life harder for you, for me, for all of us. So, to go back to the train, now, I haven't spent a lot of time in a lot of cities, and especially with rails like this. These systems are pretty fancy here. They got a lot of money into them. They're all automated, no drivers. They're fucking pretty amazing. But they're also, they made me realize something yesterday. In an emergency situation, these people don't know what's on the other side of town. Most of them don't drive it, okay? And those trains don't allow you to ever get a bearing on where you're at or what's there. Now, and I thought to myself, you know, why would they do that? Why would they put these screens up so that I can't see and get my bearings and know that there's a little store on 24th and know that I'm getting off on, you know, 24th Street Station is actually on the corner of 24th and whatever. But I wouldn't know that riding that train, right? I see a title at the airport and I get on, but it's not the words that are on the sign. It's when I get off the thing, right? I've asked 100 people where that supermarket is, and it took me 2.5 days to find it again. okay, just to get back there. So, what I realized in some of this is that we are in big trouble. Like, way bigger than we ever imagined. Right? Our streets here are made to bottleneck us. Okay? Washington and Jefferson run back into each other. Madison curls around. Why is there fences up all the way through there so that you can't escape that choke point? Because they're setting up for civil disobedience. Now, I don't know if all our cities are designed this way or if just Phoenix is. But I said when I was in North Carolina, there's something wrong with their roads. Right? Because the cars were just tore up. Like, I couldn't believe the parking lot. It was just, every car was destroyed. I said, man, there's something wrong with these fucking roads. Whatever they're doing with these fucking roads, it's wrong. And I didn't really realize what I had said. And that seems to be a thing with me, right? Then a week later, I'm in Phoenix, and I'm looking at the streets going, what in the fuck? The only purpose for this is to stop you from being on foot and getting through. You know, even if you live in this neighborhood, you might not be able to figure out your way to get through this. You know, and it seems like a mixture between Big Brother and Big Business, quite honestly. Because Big Brother does the roads and Big Business seems to put up the fences to keep you out. Which kind of makes sense, because the whole thing's about fucking money, right? Big Brother and Big Business is working together. Fucking the American people. You know, and I gotta say something else. Because nobody wants to address it. Nobody wants to fucking believe it. But I gotta tell you, I said something the other day about Charlie Kirk. Now, everybody's so fucking crazy about what I do on the internet. You wanna watch, you wanna hack, you wanna know. Here's one for you. Go ahead and look on my Google account and see if I've ever Googled Charlie Kirk. I've never Googled Charlie Kirk. I couldn't tell you who they said killed him, why the guy supposedly killed him. I couldn't tell you any of that information. But I did tell you something about Charlie the other day. And Charlie, because he loved God, we all know that there's evil ones out there that will kill somebody like that just for their love of God. And his views on abortion, or, you know, because God's views aren't always popular, okay? Like, we seem to think that our choices are more important than God's. And what we fail to recognize is his stuff aren't choices, they're commandments. He's telling us, he's our creator. He is far above us. Anything that we think we know, we're probably wrong, first off. But it's like I said, you know, when he pushed the start button on the planet, everything worked, right? Not one of us can do that. Not one of us. Not any one of us ever. There's never been a human who could get it right the first time. Who didn't need to do trial and error or cognitive thought or any of the things that make us human and make us capable. Because without these things, cognitive thought and inspiration and none of it's possible. But God thought of all that too. And I don't know. I don't want to get sidetracked, but I think we're in far greater trouble than we even realize right now, guys. And, you know, I know that Charlie was killed because somebody was sleeping with his wife. I also know that who that was. It's a sad thing, you know what I mean? It's a sad thing because God lost one of his favorite people. You know, God loves it when we praise him. And Charlie was one of a kind. His words were direct. His heart was pure. And his love for God was immense. And God's not happy. He had to take Charlie home. You know, but God's going to do what God's going to do. He's going to take it. He's going to patch Charlie up. And all the evil that this world did to him, and all the evil that it put in his soul, he's going to fix that and send Charlie back down here for another run. And that's the glory of God. If you love him, your life is eternal. You don't die. Not in the sense that we think. You know, like, it's so much greater than that. God is, he had it figured out. How can I keep my people well and keep my souls well? How can I keep them in love and keep them happy? How can I prevent the devil and the evils in this world from damaging my people? And you know, so he sends guys like Charlie down to try to stir something in us, to help us to realize what's really important and what's just fucking not. You know, and I thought about, you get off the train at Central Station there, and you look up and the fucking supermarket looks like it belongs in Beverly Hills. And, you know, you kind of like, just kind of drop there, like you were teleported there. You get on the train, you can't see a fucking thing out the windows, because they don't want you to. They don't want you to know your way around, number one. And number two, they don't want you to see the miserable lives that the people a block away from that beautiful fucking supermarket are living in misery. They're living in cardboard fucking boxes in alleys, right? A block from a supermarket that is brass and glass and as pretty as anyone you ever seen. All the best foods, just, you know, top-notch shit. Which you know, unless you take the train, that's the only way you're gonna get there and be like, you know, whatever. That's why they make the roads like they do. They keep you on the main roads as much as they can. Keep you out of the neighborhoods, just so that you don't see how people right next door are living. You know? And we never make these connections. You know, we really never make these connections. It's by the grace of God that I'm making these connections today. So one of the things that I realized this morning is, one, that I'm not particularly well. I've been having some pains, and I know I've got some kind of either blood clot or arterial problems or something going on, which is neither here nor there, but it tells me that, again, I've got enough faith to know that God's got a purpose for me. But I have a hard time letting go and letting God, because I've never lived that way. See, I'm just the guy, I've said this before, I'm just the guy in the bar stool to the right. Nothing special. You want to put a name, Jesus, on me now? Okay, all right. I'm Doug, the guy on the bar stool to the right. Okay, and don't get me wrong, I don't deny my calling at this point. It's too fucking real. It's not, it's just too fucking real. My God is a powerful, powerful God. He's our creator. And I call him God. But he is so big and so powerful. It's an incredible thing. Once you get tuned into it. I'm no different than you, I don't think. Here's the thing, I think that we all have the ability to tune into God. And I think maybe that's another reason why I'm here, is to figure it out and be able to pass that on to you, so that we can all do this collectively, and the world changes. Like, it becomes something that we haven't seen, and I know that. And I still believe that, some of the telepathic shit, it's gonna come to be so real when we all get tuned into this. It's gonna become a force to be reckoned with. I don't know. I think of way back watching Star Trek as a kid, and I couldn't tell you the episode or nothing, but I remember Captain Kirk and Spock being stuck somewhere, and these people were all concentrating too, and they put some kind of a sound out, and all of them concentrate together. They put some kind of a terrible sound out that really, really hurt Captain Kirk and Spock. It was disabling. And I think about the healing tones and the binary beats and stuff. And I think that there's some real value there. And I think that that's something that I'm going to try to teach myself more about in the coming days, years, weeks, months. Now, I've also thought about what I think is right for me to do. And I had thought that maybe I should just stay out here in the streets and kind of show you what's going on city to city. But I realized 2 days ago when I was sitting out there and I couldn't get water for a couple hours, and my face started tingling, and I know that's a precursor for some bad shit to happen. I've just been through this for too fucking long with whatever's going on with me. And while I was given some grace and given a couple of months to feel better, I know that I still have some challenges ahead. So I had thought a month ago that I'm gonna go home. But I find myself in Phoenix, and home doesn't look like an option. I'm not gonna be able to walk to New York. and it's not the time of year. That's why I'm down here. It's, almost livable down here in Phoenix. That doesn't translate to livable in New York. Nor is it going to get me there, because I'm not able to teleport myself. I want to go home. I can't click my heels 3 times, and Dorothy and me are going to fly back to Caledonia. So, I remember seeing something a couple of months ago online that Sylvester Stallone had a ranch, and if my memory's right, I think it was in Texas, but I'm not positive. But he was looking for help, and he wasn't able to find people he needed carpenters, he's got a bunch of work to do. But he wasn't able to find guys that would work for him, or they were working out, or whatever. And I find myself here and thinking about not wanting to be here, not wanting to wait until somebody kicks me out of this airport, or I can't even charge my fucking phone. I'm down here blacked out, a few miles from fucking Mexico. I don't know anybody. And there's not a safe, warm bed for me any fucking where. It ain't happening. Hell, I can't even go to fucking Burger King and charge my fucking phone. I can't sit in a Circle K and have a cup of fucking coffee, right? Because these people are so hateful. They want to come out and run me off, whether I got a Circle K cup in my hand or a Whopper in my hand. It don't fucking matter to them. They just want me the fuck out of there. And I'm not a drunk. I'm not shooting drugs in the parking lot. I'm not doing any of the things that should give them a problem. I'm eating a Whopper and drinking a cup of coffee. Now, why that ain't good enough for them, I don't know. But again, I'll say to the people at Burger King and the people at Circle K, I think you should probably look at that and see who's running your stores and how they're running your stores. Because these people are your customers too. They may come in with a handful of fucking change, or they used to, and now they can't even get change at the stoplight, right? Because the government's shutting them down. It's untaxed pennies, right? The fuck, they can't, they don't get, they get their tax at the fucking Circle K, right? That ain't good enough for them. They want it all. They don't want a little piece. They don't want to give you any. They don't want to give me any. They want it all. And I don't know. So going back to that, Mr. Stallone, I'm just gonna put this out here just like this. I've been a carpenter for 25 years. I find myself in a bad position. I know that I can be helpful. I've also said out loud here that I'm not particularly well, but I'm not falling over either, right? So I think I've got skills that I could probably help you if you still need people out there. And I find myself at a Phoenix airport where it would be pretty easy to get me a ticket. I'd hop on a plane and be there probably pretty shortly. So, I'm going to appeal to you if you happen to catch this, or maybe if you know Mr. Stallone personally, maybe somebody can pass this along. I kind of feel like I might have a couple of friends in Hollywood, or people that could be potentially my friends. And so I'm hoping maybe one of you catches this and passes that little tidbit along, because I just want to get somewhere where I can be safe and generate a little income. And I believe I can help you in whatever it is you're doing out there. If you're fixing fences or building barns, or I was a concrete man for a long time. Like 250 rentals I took care of, 270 I think it was. for a long time. So I've done some things that I think are going to be right up the alley, or exactly what you probably need. And I would welcome the opportunity. So I don't know. I guess that's it for now. I lost where I was. I'll rewatch this and see what else comes to mind. See what else when I come up with. Thanks for taking the time to listen.